I love the Souls games. From Demon Souls to Dark Souls to Bloodborne, they've become some of my favorite games over the last decade, but man, let's not delude ourselves here. They're freaking weird games. I mean, that's why they took so long to catch on, but here's the thing. Souls series developer FromSoftware has always been weird. The company is now more popular than ever, but they've been kinda doing their own thing since Kingsfield way back on the PlayStation 1. Even as a big Souls fan, I was excited to hear that Dark Souls 3 would be the last entry, at least for a while, because this means they can go back to making weird, unique games again. And I don't just mean more Armored Core, because this is Punching Weight, a celebration of the weird, ambitious, and unnecessary. And in this episode, we take a brief glimpse into one of the most prolific producers of weird games. Welcome to Punching Weight from Software, before they were Dark Souls. Given the theme of the show, it's fitting our first game is Shadow Tower for the PlayStation 1, available on PSN. Now more than ever, more people need to celebrate this underrated action RPG, because when it came out, I'm sure no one quite knew what to make of it, but playing this game for the first time a couple years ago, it immediately dawned on me what this game is. Dark Souls on the PlayStation 1. Usually Kingsfield is name-dropped as the true precursor to the Souls series, but maybe that's because most people aren't familiar with Shadow Tower. First is the game's incredible enemy design and absence of music. Dozens and dozens of wildly different creatures populate the game's 7 worlds and handful of areas therein. Each area offers new surprises, and a lack of music allows an impressive catalog of sound effects to shine. Shadow Tower's short draw distance is an unintended boon because you're never quite sure what crazy monster is waiting for you just beyond the shadows, and just know there's some crazy monsters waiting for you. It creates a familiar sense of isolation and anxiety. Just like FromSoft's flagship series, Shadow Tower is not necessarily a horror game, though I had a great time playing it with the sound up and the lights down. Another thing that ties Shadow Tower to the Souls games is soul points, but I bring this up less for the semantics and more for the weird mechanics that give this game its unique personality. While your character in Shadow Tower grows stronger as you progress, it's done very gradually instead of rigidly like in a typical RPG. Literally, every successfully slain enemy slightly increases your soul points, and with it, so does your max HP, speed, offense, and so on. Another huge mechanic is durability. That badass sword and armor you found ain't gonna last forever. Luckily, there are items you can find, like this one here, that will repair your gear. Failing that, shops hidden around the tower will gladly repair gear for you. The cost? HP. Yes, this changes everything. Getting hit doesn't just bring you closer to death, it cuts into your maintenance budget. Not to mention damages your armor. And ain't it just like a Souls game to turn your health into a currency? But it's rough around the edges, I'm not gonna lie to you. Connecting with an enemy can be a pain, your look is super slow and mapped to the shoulder buttons, there's load times for the menus, death equals back to the load screen, and let me tell you, there ain't a whole lot of save points. It was far better done in Shadow Tower Abyss, the Japanese-only sequel, but I'll tackle that and dig deeper into the first one further down the line. But if you're a Souls fan and can handle some clunky controls and menus, there's a lot to love in Shadow Tower. Up next, the colorful and jaunty Adventures of Cookie and Cream. This is probably the most well-known game on this episode, but I don't know if many people realize this is a FromSoftware joint. That's right, from the studio that would one day make Demon Souls and Bloodborne, comes the tale of 2 rabbit buddies working together to bring back the moon in order to save their favorite festival. One plays the banjo and the other the maracas. One has a potted plant on its head, the other a mini umbrella. It's definitely a different vibe from your typical FromSoftware fare. But that's not why we're talking about it on Punching Weight. The Adventures of Cookie and Cream is an incredible 2-player cooperative game played on a single controller. Originally released in late 2000, it's perhaps the first of its kind, definitely before Sports Friends. It's a genius idea and proof that the folks at FromSoft have always been thinking outside of the box. You can play on separate controllers, but this feels like the true way to play because while this game is otherwise extremely simple, the added challenge of sharing a controller takes things to a whole nother level. Across 8 worlds and 40 stages, our titular bunny heroes must assist their cohorts by hitting switches, pushing logs, or turning cranks to create safe passage for one another. The goal is simply to cross the finish line before time runs out. Time is the real enemy here. Falling in water or taking damage eats away at the clock. The pressure is real. Make sure you play with somebody you really like, because this will put that relationship to the test. And don't even ask me about trying to stay in good framing while playing. For an early PS2 title, it runs really smooth and looks pretty good. The bouncy Saturday morning cartoon vibe helps keep the blood pressure down, and does wonders to distract you from how terrible you are at coordinating with your teammate. The zoom function is a big help, but the game could use some darker shadows under your characters. It's a little too tough to tell exactly where you are while airborne. Plus, hit detection feels kinda loose at times, but for a super early PS2 game, it plays really well. I'm curious to see how the DS port fared, but this is an otherwise charming and challenging cooperative platformer that will test relationships. Our third game in this Before They Were Dark Souls edition of the show is one that I'm extremely excited to share. More so than Shadow Tower, I cannot imagine a game being more misunderstood in its time than Echo Night Beyond for the PS2. This minimalist, slow-burn adventure horror game is an absolute treat for anyone who enjoyed Kenji Eno's D or Enemy Zero, or games that can progressively be called walking simulators. Definitely not for everyone, but speaking just for myself, this game is incredible. Echo Night Beyond starts with your character coming to in the wreckage of a spaceship that has crash-landed on a moon colony. Though safe in your spacesuit, your memory before the crash is hazy. All you know for sure is your fiancé is missing and someone left a vague note instructing you to, quote, come to the facility. While you may be the only living soul around, you are not alone. The colony is crawling with ghosts. In a gameplay style similar to Amnesia and Outlast, you have no defense against the ghosts except to run before going into cardiac arrest. That's right, FromSoftware made a combat-less horror game in 2004. I mean, talk about ahead of its time. Though calling this exclusively a horror game is misleading and maybe why it was reviewed poorly. Echo Night Beyond is more an adventure game with an atmospheric horror slant. You learn that the ghosts aren't dangerous until they become enveloped by an evil fog. Evil fog. Where have I heard that one before? The game boils down to this. You enter a new area and go, shit, fog, and you make a beeline for the monitor room. You flip through cameras until you spot the area's ventilation switch, then study room layout and ghost movements and plot your path to the panel. This is often harder than it sounds, but it's a great and clever mix of puzzle solving and stealth. I loved it. Once you've cleared out the fog, ghosts become harmless and you can talk to them. Often they're holding an item you need and you must retrieve something they've lost to set them free and get the item. Also, while flipping between cameras, keep an eye out for glowing green markings that'll play fragmented video clips.
Stop all that nonsense talk about ghosts.
Between studying the rooms, talking with ghosts, and viewing video clips, a picture slowly starts to come together. From your menu, you can read descriptions about every room, item, and ghost you've come across. It's a mystery I found incredibly fun to unravel. The graphics are impressive and very detailed. The sound design is incredible and makes the otherwise empty space station a character all its own. Though the voice acting could have been better.
Do I look funny? I've been alone since you left.
But I need to make this clear. This is an adventure game first and foremost. Though there are some cold sweat moments, be ready to spend 20, 30, 60 minutes combing for that one item you unknowingly keep walking past. Have a FAQ on the ready. It's also a pretty short game too. Echo Night Beyond is actually the third game in the Echo Night series. The first one was released on PSN not too long ago, and the second game was recently fan-translated into English. I only chose this one because I've had it for a couple years. If the other two are as good as this one, I'd love to play them and revisit this series in the future. And this is just 3 games in FromSoftware's impressive rap sheet. We'd love to come back to this topic, so let us know in the comments what your favorite FromSoft games are. Or if there are any other weird, ambitious, or unnecessary games you'd like to see on Punching Weight, let us know. This is a Patreon-supported show, and we couldn't be making videos this consistently without the support of every one of these fine people. We cannot thank you enough. $1 or $2 goes a long way, so please support if you can. Or at least tell a friend about the show, check out the other episodes, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.